Okay, we're sitting here with Frank Evangelisti, who is Director of Planning and Economic Development for Broome County, New York. Frank, I think when I first met you, correct me if I'm wrong, you were a planner of the city of Binghamton.
That's correct.
A number of years ago.
I started the city 30 years ago.
Wow. So in any case, it means you have broad experience here. That was my reason for saying that. So tell me a little bit about you. Are you a native of this area? Yep. How long have you been here?
Yep. I grew up in this area. I grew up in Appalachian, went to school in Vestal. So very much a native of this area. Went away to college and lived away for about 3 years and then came back to be senior planner with the city. Then assistant director for economic development for the city, and then chief planner for Broome County, and now director of planning for Broome County.
Good. And where do you reside?
I'm in Windsor.
You're in Windsor, okay. Okay, you will remember this, we talked about this, I believe it was last summer, we talked about the health science campuses and their implications, but one of the questions we've been asking community leaders is about what problems you see, if any, in the immediate area around the health science campuses, and by that we mean probably from the campus up to Main Street and all the side streets. Do you have any feelings about what the issues might be?
Well, I think you do still see quite a bit of blight. I think there's concern about crime, especially property crime in that area. And then on Main Street, those businesses I think really struggle. They're really just barely holding on. A number of them, the smaller businesses that are on Main Street. Those are probably the main issues.
Okay. Then I want to shift over to the health sciences campus itself, and we ask people to think about what's positive about it and whether there are any challenges or issues that you see. And let's start with the positive. What's your take on the positives associated with it?
Well, I think the greatest positive associated with it is the symbolic nature of institutional investment in that urban core. I go back long enough to remember when downtown Binghamton there was very little activity, very little vitality, and the university created the downtown center, which is really not that big an impact in terms of dollars and cents and people, but it seemed to signal to the development community that, hey, this is a place that we can look at and invest in. And suddenly you started seeing student housing projects spring up, which represented, significant multi-million-dollar investments. So I think that's the huge positive. Is I don't think it's going to be that many people to where their shopping dollars are going to turn around downtown Johnson City, but we've already seen a huge spike in development interest in, first of all, it's not just the health sciences campus, but it's also the nursing school, and then the Century Sunrise buildings, former EJ buildings, are getting redeveloped. But just to tell you that story, that guy, Larry Regan, came to the area looking for buildings, looking for old warehouse buildings, old factory buildings, and we were shown those buildings, and we sold them. We, the county, sold him those buildings. And the day of the press conference, so you get out, all the elected officials are dressed up, all the media's there, and it's a pouring rain. And rain is pouring through that building. I don't mean a little couple of drips and drabs here and there. It's just coming down in sheets. And the developers walk around, this is going to be so great. I mean, so we really attracted somebody with true vision. And I think what you see when people have development experience outside of this area, they look at these big old factories and they see the potential. So I think it's already had that impact. We just sold 59 Lester Avenue, which is the big white building near the newish Walmart. And again, a developer who was not intimidated by the massive square footage there and thinks he can make that happen. And we're just seeing interest in a lot of these old buildings that we didn't used to have.
When you say you sold the property to Reagan, was it off the tax rolls? Was it owned by the county?
Yes, it had been, I believe it had been taken for back taxes. We had done environmental investigation there. So we had done we had done the developer's due diligence for them, some of it at least. The same thing with 59 Leicester. We've done the same thing with another building near 59 Leicester. So we've kind of used.
Is that the Victory Building that is that
59 Leicester is the Victory
That's
Building.
what I thought, okay.
We're doing this. We've done the same thing with a building that basically next door to it, 19 Avenue B, where we go in, we the county use tax dollars to do the asbestos survey, the phase 1 and phase 2 environmental assessments. In some cases, for the bigger ones, we'll actually have floor plans and things drawn up so that we could turn it over to the developer and they're not having to spend tens of thousands of dollars to see if they're even interested in the building. They kind of can look at that stuff and then go from there.
Great. I guess let's shift over to the things that worry you or the challenges with having the school there and in the whole health sciences. And when I say health sciences, I mean the pharmacy school, the nursing school, and other things that will happen. Do you see any disadvantages or issues?
I don't see any direct disadvantages. My biggest concern, maybe it's not my biggest, but one of my concerns is that the university and the hospital start to say we need more parking and start to knock down buildings to make surface parking. That's a major concern for that area. If we don't, there's a lot of properties over there, residential properties that are very rough right now, that need to be rehabilitated, both to provide housing, but also to provide vitality to the neighborhood. And if we just have all surface parking, I'm very worried about the impacts to the tax base and just to the 24-hour nature of what could be a nice neighborhood. Also removing properties from the tax rolls. The university, the health sciences campus was a factory before that was functioning, so that's a concern. But I'm really worried about the loss of vitality if we just start to say, let's start taking, if we have sort of a modern day urban renewal, even if it's, piece by piece and not this huge, whole scale thing, but that's a very real concern.
Okay. Another question, we just talked about the immediate neighborhood, but some people are saying, well, the University of State are making a huge investment, but there's only so many things they can do, and then the locals have to do something. And of course, we're talking about the Village of Johnson City. And I'd like you to comment on that, however you want to, whether you agree, disagree, or if there are issues and barriers to doing things that are needed. What are they?
Well, I agree. The big institutional players can only do so much. The village has to do a number of things. One is get a handle on the demolitions before it's too late. They have an opportunity to adopt design standards before a lot of these other projects come online. Once things are built, they last for a very, very, very long time. And so if things are demolished or things are built that are unattractive or don't function well, we're going to be living with those for the next 50 years. So the village kind of has to be proactive. I guess those are things that they really have to step up and do. Right now, what's coming on the heels of all this too is the state has announced a $20 million Greater Binghamton Fund, which a portion of it's going to go into this area, and those applications are out there right now. So that's money that's not necessarily the locals, but they're going to be matching. Some of them are local projects that they're going to have to be doing the match for. So that's got to come together in a way that's positive.
If I come back to some of your earlier comments about potential issues, you mentioned, for example, blight and crime and the struggling small businesses, but any of that crime or blight or whatever, is any of that the responsibility, or are there things that the village should be doing?
Well, so blight is definitely, I think they've got to be very firm on code enforcement. Code enforcement is really tough, but they've got to be very firm on that. I think, and I don't know how you solve this problem, but one of the things that we've seen is that folks who maybe they're on social services, or they're just, you know, at the very at the low end of the socioeconomic scale but above the level of services, don't have leases. So any kind of code report might get them evicted. And it's this terrible cycle where they're living one place for 3 months and another place for 3 months. Their kids don't ever really get settled in the school. That's something that the local municipality can try to address through requiring leases and things like that, but also at the same time amping up code enforcement.
Good. That's been very helpful, Frank. Just in closing, do you have any questions or any comments that we didn't ask about? I want to make sure you have the opportunity to say whatever.
No, I think that my main, you know, one of my other main concerns that didn't really come out is I'm very worried about the community has stepped up and done a plan for that neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And I'm very worried about a lot of these investments sort of not going along in a coordinated fashion, in actually running counter to what the community wants and what would be good planning practices. So some of that's demolition, but some of it's just not being coordinated and not leveraging one with the other.
Who would normally do this if they had a planning department?
Well, you know, the village has to sort of step up and say, we accept this plan, and I don't care if you've got $20 million for this project, it doesn't follow the plan, you need to make these changes. So, you know, they could, for example, require shared parking, or look at their parking ordinance to not mandate excessive parking. They could look at their metered parking and go with a much smarter system like the city now has, so that it's easier to park on the street. You know, there's things that they could do, but it takes, when you've been at the bottom rung of the ladder for so long and never said no to a development project before, it's harder to kind of shift to saying, no, you can do better, and really demanding more from big projects.
Thank you very much. Those are really very insightful, and we appreciate your time.